I'm now joined by Captain John Conrad. He's a licensed captain of the world's largest ships, an author and founder of the shipping website captain.com. Mr. Conrad, welcome to DW. From a captain's perspective, tell me, how could it come to this?
Right. These ships have gotten incredibly larger over just the last 10 years. So in the last 10 years, they've gone from about 10,000 container ships to 20,000 container ships. But as the size has increased, the International Maritime Organization, the UN arm that does maritime in London, they have not increased the crew size and they have not put new requirements for technology on the ship. So you have significantly bigger ships and the same size crew, the same technology, and really the same tugboats and equipment navigating these ships. And it's not just the length. I mean, this ship is about 60 meters longer than the biggest aircraft carriers in the world, but it's also the weight, with a doubling of the number of containers on board. These ships weigh 200 to 300% more than the ships of 10 years ago. And again, we're using 10, 20-year-old technology on board.
Can gusts of wind really blow such a massive ship sideways, as the owner of the ship says?
Absolutely. As you stack these containers up higher, that's, you're a big steel wall where all the wind pushes against these containers at an incredible rate. The average speed of transit through the canal is 8 knots. This ship was going 13 knots, and we believe it was going faster to try to provide the momentum and inertia to overcome those gusts of wind. But as you know, driving fast down a narrow passageway on the Autobahn during construction, the faster you go, the more careful you have to be, especially when that wind comes and can easily push a ship like this, or some of the new cruise ships. Think of those, all those cabins that are stacked stories high. That's another ship that can be easily buffeted.
Captain, we only have about 30 seconds. I want to get this last question in, which is the race to remove the blockage is proving extremely challenging. How long do you think it will take to dislodge the Ever Given?
Well, there's a lot of hope that next week in the high tide, they can get some fuel out and they can do what they're calling a back twist, where they can corkscrew it out backwards after digging and dredging both ends. If that doesn't work, they have to bring in fuel barges, take out the fuel, and then somewhere in the world, they have to find gigantic cranes on barges tall enough to reach those containers and start removing the weight so they can float it up higher. But again, as Dr. Mercogliano said, there is a risk of hull crack. This ship was not designed, and every time the tide comes in and out, it's like bending a piece of metal. It's doing micro cracks in the hull, and you do that enough time, and it could crack. And that would take weeks at least.
We'll have to stop it there. Captain John Conrad, really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, taking a detour would lead to major delays for most shippers. Have a look at this map. The route through the canal is just 7,000 kilometers, long enough from the Arabian Sea to ports in the Mediterranean. But the way around the Cape of Good Hope, this is the alternative route, a whopping 20,000 kilometers. Now, assuming that freighters are traveling around 25 knots, or about 45 kilometers an hour, that adds more than a week to their journey. Now, the stuck ship is costing the global economy billions as trade is delayed and desperately needed goods cannot be delivered.
They're doing what they can, but the 400-metre-long container ship won't budge. Diggers are at work on the bank alongside a vacuum excavator, which can suck up to 2,000 cubic metres of sand an hour. No one really knows how long it'll take to dislodge the ship. Estimates on when the vessel could be freed vary from a few days to a few weeks in the worst case.
But what I am quite surprised, and maybe what I would expect to start seeing soon, is if they are not successful in getting the vessel floated back naturally, then the next best option is to actually lighter the vessel. So which means they will have to bring small feeder container vessels next to the ship and start offloading part of the containers from the main ship into the smaller ones, so that they're basically offloading the weight of the vessel in order to get it refloated naturally.
A lengthy salvage process would have wide-reaching effects. Oil prices have already risen due to the many oil tankers caught in the Suez traffic jam. Supply chains could also be affected because of missing parts.
Yes, it's it's an absolutely essential part of our modern life. And this webcam would not have reached me without modern shipping and this computer and pretty much everything on my desk, because shipping still brings us 90% of everything. And I think in the UK, it's 95% of everything. And we are absolutely fundamentally reliant on it.
The massive container ship has been stuck between the Suez Canal's banks since Tuesday, blocking the waterway which is critical for trade between Europe and Asia. The incident is now a historic event for the 150-year-old canal.
All right, for more on this, I'm joined now by Klaus Brandt. He's managing director of the German Maritime Center in Hamburg. That's a think tank for the maritime industry. Klaus, it's good to have you on the show. We talked a little bit about the costs, generally speaking, that are building up. From a shipping company's perspective, what are the daily costs that they're seeing?
It depends on the size of the vessel. So maybe for a vessel which has 3,000 containers, there will be costs per day roundabout between $25,000 or $30,000, which will occur every day, and no revenues against it.
Who eats those costs? I guess the shipping company is responsible for it.
So it's for the shipping companies a great problem because the customers of the shipping companies only pay for the transport and not for the problems during the transport of the containers.
What about insurance? Can they be insured for these kind of delays? I mean, surely they're acts of God, or I don't know if there's anything for a ship stuck in the Suez Canal.
We have in these times a lot of delays, and therefore it is not normal to have an insurance for this. We have in these times a very specific situation because since October last year, since September last year, all the vessels around the world are very good utilized, and there's a lot of cargo on the way, and therefore there is no capacity really available. That is coming up in respect to the pandemic, and as well there are some other problems which occurs as well in this case. So it's a big problem in these times when something happened like this in the Suez Canal.
So businesses are already paying more just to get these containers. Now prices could go up, it sounds like, if things are even more pinched. At what point for a ship does it become more attractive to take the Cape route when you're looking at what's going on now?
A route around Cape of Good Hope will take around about 8 to 9 days more time when you compare it with a route through the Suez Canal. We have now to see that more than 200 vessels are waiting northbound and southbound in front of the Suez Canal. And only looking for an example, if it is possible that tomorrow the canal will again open, it will take around about 4 to 5 days, maybe more, if it is possible to go again in a normal way through the canal. So we have to consider as well the clear of the congestion of the canal. And therefore it might be a good decision to go around the Cape of Good Hope. But then there will occur additional costs because the longer trip will have impact on the cost of a vessel, and as well it will occur bunker costs because the longer trip will then consume more bunker.
All right, so no good solutions visible at the moment. Klaus Brandt, Managing Director of the German Maritime Center. Thank you so much.
Thank you.